Ever wish you could just snap your fingers and suddenly be that person who, like, speaks up confidently,
Yeah.
especially in English? Well, get ready because today we're diving deep into assertive
Oh,
communication.
yeah.
It's all about finding that balance, respecting yourself and the others. And honestly, who couldn't use a little more of that?
It's a skill that can truly like transform how you navigate the world, from personal relationships to professional settings.
Totally. And I'll admit, it's something I've struggled with in the past. Like,
Yeah.
picture this. I'm at this networking event, surrounded by people effortlessly chatting in English. So
Mm-hmm.
nervous, I practically blend into the wallpaper, hoping no one talks to me.
Right.
Which, of course, backfires spectacularly when someone does try to strike up a conversation.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine that feeling of wanting to contribute, but feeling frozen by the fear of messing up.
Exactly. It's like my brain short-circuited and I mumbled some incoherent response and basically wanted to disappear. Talk about a classic case of passive communication taking over.
Yeah, it highlights the stark difference between passive communication, where we prioritize others' comfort over our own needs, and assertive communication, where we find that balance.
Okay, so passive versus assertive. What does that look like in real life?
Think of it like ordering dinner with friends. You're craving mushroom pasta, but everyone else is getting pizza, so you just go with the flow and end up with a meal you don't even enjoy.
Oh, no.
That's passive. Now imagine you politely say, "Actually, I think there's been a mix-up. I ordered the mushroom pasta." That's assertive. Clear, confident, and you still get to enjoy your dinner.
So it's not about being demanding. It's about respecting yourself enough to voice what you need.
Exactly. And both styles have their place. Sometimes going with the flow is perfectly fine, but other times you need to advocate for yourself.
Now, where does aggressive communication fit into all of this? That line can feel blurry sometimes.
The key difference is respect. Assertiveness respects everyone involved, you and the other person. Aggressive communication bulldozes over others. Think shouting matches, interrupting, or blaming language.
Got it. So assertiveness is like this sweet spot between being a pushover and being a steamroller.
Precisely. Let's say you're asking for a raise. A passive approach might be, "I don't know if it's a good time, but maybe I could get a raise." There's a lot of uncertainty there.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you're apologizing for even asking.
Now imagine saying, "I'd like to discuss a raise. My contributions justify an increase." It's direct, confident, and still respectful.
Whoa, it's subtle, but that shift in wording makes a huge difference. Okay, I'm sold on the power of assertiveness, so how do we actually get there?
Great question. We've got 5 powerful strategies to unlock that assertive voice.
Hit me with strategy number 1.
It all starts with I language. This subtle but mighty technique helps you express your feelings and needs without placing blame. It shifts the focus to your experience, reducing the chance of triggering defensiveness in others.
I've heard of I statements, but how do they actually work in conversation?
Let's say you need a colleague to handle a task. Instead of, "You should take this on," try, "I'd appreciate it if you could handle this." Subtle difference, big impact.
Both sentences ask the same thing, but the second one feels less accusatory and more focused on my own feelings.
Right. The first one subtly implies the colleague hasn't been helpful, even if you didn't mean it that way. I. Language keeps it about your needs, not assumptions about them.
It's like taking ownership of the request instead of putting it all on them. What's strategy number 2?
It's all about using empowering language. We often use words that weaken our message, making us sound hesitant or unsure, especially in English.
Oh, tell me about it. I'm the queen of just. I'm sorry. It's like I'm constantly downplaying my own thoughts.
We've all been there, but we can swap those out for stronger choices.
So what are some examples of these confidence zapping phrases?
Words like just, sorry, maybe, kind of, they diminish the impact of what you're saying.
Okay, but how do we replace them in real conversations? Can you give us an example?
Imagine you need to get your ladder back from a neighbor. Instead of, "Sorry to bother you, but could I maybe get my ladder back sometime?" Try, "I need my ladder back to finish painting. When would be a good time to pick it up?"
Wow, that's a huge difference. It's so much more direct and assertive without being aggressive or demanding.
Exactly. It's like climbing a ladder of confidence one rung at a time.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So we're ditching those wishy-washy phrases and owning our needs. What's next?
Strategy number 3 is all about being direct. It's stating what you need clearly and concisely without beating around the bush. We often use words like could and might to soften requests, which is fine in many situations, but sometimes we need to be firm and clear.
So how do we know when to be more direct and when to stick with those softer words?
It depends on the context and the importance of what you're asking. If it's a casual favor for a friend, softer language is fine. But if you're setting a boundary at work or communicating a crucial need, directness is key.
Can you give us an example of how this plays out in a professional setting?
Let's say you need a project update from a teammate by day's end. Instead of, could you maybe send an update later today? Try, I need a project update by the end of the day.
Okay, so we're cutting the could and maybe and getting straight to the point. It sounds more assertive, but still professional.
Exactly. The first phrasing leaves room for interpretation and might not convey the urgency. The second one is clear about your expectation. What's your take on this?
It's like sometimes those softer words make us sound less confident than we actually feel. It's definitely a skill to learn when to switch gears and be super direct.
I agree, and it's especially relevant for non-native English speakers since the nuances can be tricky. Speaking of tricky, let's move on to strategy number 4.
Bring it on. What's the next assertive communication superpower we're unlocking?
It's all about setting clear boundaries, and this one can be tough, especially in a language that isn't your first.
Boundaries. They're so important, but I struggle with those even in my native language. What are your top tips for setting them clearly in English?
The biggest hurdle is learning to say no without over-explaining or apologizing. It's tempting to justify ourselves, but that weakens the message and makes it seem like we're not committed to the boundary.
Oh my gosh, I am so guilty of it that I'll end up rambling on with a million excuses when I should just be saying no.
It's a common trap. Instead of, I'm so sorry I can't meet on Friday, I'm swamped and have to pick up the kids, try, I can't meet Friday, but I'm available Saturday. Would that work?
Whoa, that is so much clearer and more confident. You're not just saying no, you're offering an alternative solution, which is brilliant.
Exactly. It shows flexibility while still reinforcing the boundary.
I'm loving these strategies. What's the fifth and final key to assertive communication?
It's all about scripting and rehearsing. If you've got a tough conversation on the horizon, write down what you want to say and practice it.
Scripting. That seems a bit formal, like I'm prepping for a play.
It might feel that way at first, but it's incredibly helpful. It's not about memorizing lines. It's about having a roadmap and feeling more confident in what you want to convey.
Okay, I'm willing to give it a shot. Can you give us an example of how to use scripting to prepare for a tricky conversation?
Let's say you're overwhelmed at work and need to ask a colleague for help. You're hesitant because you don't want to seem incompetent. Before approaching them, write out something like, I'm juggling a lot right now and feeling overwhelmed. I could really use your help with specific task. Your support would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, that's a great starting point.
Yep.
It's direct, respectful, and clearly outlines the situation and what you need. But how do we rehearse this without sounding like a robot?
That's where practice comes in. Look in a mirror, maintain eye contact with yourself, and say the words out loud. You're aiming for a natural and comfortable delivery.
So it's less about memorizing and more about getting comfortable with the message and how it feels to say it out loud.
You got it. You can even record yourself and listen back. It can be super insightful for pinpointing areas where you could sound more confident.
I love that tip. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from passive to aggressive, and now these 5 amazing strategies. It's like a crash course in communication confidence.
It is. But before we go further, I'm curious what's standing out to you so far, what resonates most. It's been fantastic unpacking these core strategies with you. Now let's see how they work in real-life scenarios.
Yes, because knowing the techniques is one thing, but putting them into practice is where the magic happens, right?
Absolutely. Let's talk about interruptions. You're in a meeting sharing your brilliant ideas, and bam, someone cuts you off. How do you handle that assertively, especially in a professional setting?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think we've all been there. Interruptions are so frustrating, but I often freeze up not wanting to cause a scene.
It's a common reaction, but you can actually regain control of the conversation without being aggressive. One technique is to acknowledge the interruption and politely but firmly assert your right to continue. You could say something like, excuse me, I wasn't quite finished, or I appreciate your input, but I'd like to finish my thought.
I like that. It's direct, but not confrontational.
Yeah.
You're not starting an argument, just reclaiming your space.
Exactly. You could even use nonverbal cues. Maintain eye contact, keep your hands slightly raised, or continue gesturing as you speak. Sometimes a subtle but firm nonverbal cue can be enough.
Those nonverbal cues can be so powerful, especially when you're still getting comfortable with speaking up. But what about when we need to disagree with someone? That always feels like a tightrope walk, wanting to be respectful, but also stand my ground.
Disagreement is a natural part of communication, but it can definitely escalate if not handled well. Assertive communication can help us express those dissenting opinions while respecting the other person's view.
So how do we find that balance? How do we disagree without turning it into a battle?
A good starting point is acknowledging their viewpoint before presenting yours. Try something like, I see where you're coming from, but I have a different perspective, or I respect your opinion, but I see things a bit differently.
That's a great way to open up the conversation and create a space for respectful disagreement.
Exactly. Then when you present your own view, focus on I statements and facts, not personal attacks.
So instead of saying, you're wrong, I might say, I disagree with that point because, and then offer my reasoning or evidence.
Exactly. You're making it less about being right and more about having a productive exchange of ideas. What are your thoughts on this?
It feels less confrontational that way. It's like you're inviting the other person to have a genuine conversation rather than getting defensive. But honestly, I think giving and receiving criticism can be even tougher than disagreeing. Nobody enjoys being criticized, and it's equally hard to give criticism without hurting someone's feelings.
You're right. Criticism is a delicate area, but it's crucial for growth, both personally and professionally. Approaching it with a learning mindset rather than judgment can make a big difference.
So how can we give criticism constructively in a way that helps rather than hurts?
Specificity and objectivity are key. Instead of saying your presentation was terrible, try, I noticed the slides were a bit text-heavy, which made it hard to follow the main points.
So instead of a general sweeping statement, we're focusing on specific things that could be improved.
Precisely. You're giving feedback they can actually use to make changes. It also helps to frame it in terms of improvement, not blame. Say something like, I think this would be even stronger if, and then offer specific suggestions.
So we're providing guidance and support, not just pointing out flaws. I like that. But what about being on the receiving end? How do we handle criticism assertively without getting defensive?
That can be even tougher, but it's a vital skill. The first step is active listening, truly trying to understand their perspective.
Easier said than done, right? Especially when it feels like a personal attack.
I get it. But remember, even if their delivery isn't perfect, they're probably trying to be helpful. Separate the message from the messenger and focus on the content of the criticism. Ask clarifying questions if anything is unclear. You could say, could you elaborate on what you mean by, or can you give me an example?
Asking for clarification. That's a great way to make sure we're both on the same page and get the most out of the feedback.
Exactly. Once you've processed it, decide how you want to respond. Thank them for the input, even if you don't agree with everything. Acknowledge points that resonate and your willingness to work on those areas. If you feel the criticism was unfair, respectfully disagree and offer your perspective.
So receiving criticism assertively is about active listening, clarifying, and responding authentically while still being respectful.
You nailed it. And remember, even if it stings, try to see it as a chance to grow. What are your thoughts on this?
It's such a powerful shift in mindset. It's like instead of getting defensive, we can reframe criticism as valuable information that helps us become better. Speaking of things that can make us better, let's talk about dealing with difficult people. We all have those personalities in our lives. The demanding boss, the passive-aggressive colleague, or the friend who constantly pushes boundaries. They can be so draining.
You're absolutely right. Difficult people are, well, difficult. But assertive communication can help you manage those interactions more effectively.
Okay, I'm ready to equip myself with those tools.
Yeah.
How do we deal with those personalities assertively?
One of the most effective techniques is setting clear boundaries, and this is crucial sticking to them. Difficult people often thrive on pushing those boundaries. By clearly stating expectations and consequences, you regain control and prevent them from taking advantage.
It's like creating a protective bubble, a no-nonsense zone where their negativity can't penetrate.
I love that analogy. And when setting those boundaries, be firm, consistent, and clear in your communication. Use I statements and assertive language to state your needs and expectations.
So for instance, if a coworker constantly interrupts me when I'm trying to focus I could say, I need to concentrate on this right now. Please don't interrupt unless it's urgent.
Exactly. You stated your need for uninterrupted time clearly and assertively. If they continue interrupting calmly but firmly reiterate your boundary, you could say, as I mentioned, I need to focus on this. I'm happy to talk later when I have more time.
Got it. But what about those situations where a difficult person tries to manipulate or guilt you into doing what they want? Ugh, I hate those.
That's where saying no, without over-explaining or apologizing, comes in. Difficult people often try to exploit our good nature and willingness to please, but you have the right to say no without justifying your decision.
It's so freeing to remember that we don't owe anyone a lengthy explanation, and over-explaining often makes us seem less assertive.
Exactly. A simple, no, I'm not able to do that, or I'm not comfortable with that, is perfectly sufficient. You can be polite and respectful while firmly holding your ground. What resonates with you about this particular technique?
Honestly, it's the permission to just say no. It's like I don't have to bend over backwards to please everyone. I can simply state my boundary and move on. That feels incredibly empowering.
I'm curious, though, how does all of this apply when we're communicating in English as a second language? Culture plays such a big role in communication styles, and what might be considered assertive in one culture could be seen as aggressive in another.
That's a great point, and it adds another layer of complexity. What's considered assertive in one culture might be perceived very differently in another. So how do we navigate those cultural nuances and communicate assertively while still being respectful of different norms?
It takes research and sensitivity. Before engaging in cross-cultural communication, familiarize yourself with the communication styles and expectations of the other culture.
So if I'm going to be working with colleagues from, say, Japan, I should learn about Japanese communication etiquette beforehand.
Exactly. Japanese communication tends to be more indirect and subtle than some Western styles. Knowing this helps you avoid misinterpretations and adjust your approach accordingly.
That makes sense. But how do we balance being assertive with cultural sensitivity? Seems like a tricky dance.
It definitely is. One tip is to observe those experienced in cross-cultural communication. Pay attention to how they phrase requests, express disagreement, and handle conflict. It's like learning by example.
So watch and learn from the pros. I like that. It's like an apprenticeship for cross-cultural communication.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. Most people appreciate it when you show genuine interest in their culture and communication style.
It's all about being mindful, doing our research, and being open to learning from others. So if we're ever unsure, it's okay to ask for guidance from someone who's more familiar with that culture.
Absolutely. Even with the best intentions, misunderstandings can happen. What resonates most with you about navigating these cultural nuances?
Honestly, it's the reminder that effective communication is a two-way street. It's not just about expressing ourselves clearly, it's about understanding the other person's perspective, especially when cultural differences are at play.
I couldn't agree more. Embracing cultural diversity is about learning, adapting, and finding ways to connect despite our differences.
I feel like we've uncovered so much about assertive communication. From the basics to real-life examples, cross-cultural nuances, it's been incredible.
It has, but we're not done yet. There are more tools to explore that can help you on this journey to becoming a more assertive communicator.
Okay, I'm ready for more. What other assertive communication tools are out there? I feel like we've already uncovered so much.
We have covered a lot of ground, but there's always more to discover. Let's talk about the power of body language. It's like this secret language we're all speaking, even if we're not aware of it.
Body language.
Yeah.
I know it's important, but how can we use it to be more assertive?
Our nonverbal cues can either support or sabotage what we're saying. When we're communicating assertively, our body language needs to match our words to convey confidence and conviction.
So like if I'm making a request at work, I shouldn't be slouching and avoiding eye contact.
Exactly. Those things can make you seem unsure. Instead, stand or sit up straight, make eye contact, and use open hand gestures. It projects openness and confidence.
It's like our body is saying, I'm here, I mean business, but I'm also approachable.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of a genuine smile. It can go a long way in conveying warmth, even when you're being assertive.
So it's not about being intimidating, it's about having a confident presence.
Yeah.
What else can we add to our assertive communication toolkit?
Active listening is another essential tool.
Active listening sounds simple enough, but I bet there's more to it than just hearing what someone's saying.
You're right. It's about engaging fully with the speaker, both verbally and non-verbally, to show you're truly interested.
So it's not just waiting for our turn to speak. It's about being present in the conversation. What are some examples of active listening?
Think eye contact, nodding, using little verbal cues like uh-huh or I see. Ask clarifying questions, too, to make sure you understand what they're saying. What are your initial thoughts about this?
It makes so much sense. When someone really listens to us, it makes us feel heard and respected.
Oh.
And if we do the same for others, it shows we value their perspective. Plus, if we're really listening, we're less likely to misunderstand or jump to conclusions.
Exactly. It's a win-win. Speaking of win-win, let's revisit I statements. They're another vital tool for assertive communication.
We talked about I statements earlier, but can you remind us why they're so powerful?
They shift the focus from the other person to our own experience. Instead of "you're always late," which sounds accusatory, you could say, "I feel frustrated when you're late because it throws off my schedule."
Ah, so you're owning your feelings and explaining the impact of their actions without blaming them. What are your thoughts about this?
I statements help us communicate our needs and boundaries assertively without being aggressive. They open the door for dialogue rather than shutting it down with blame.
It's like building a bridge instead of putting up a wall.
Yeah.
What are some other ways we can use I statements?
They're not just for negative feelings. Use them to express positive emotions, appreciation, and gratitude. For instance, instead of "you're a great friend," try "I feel so grateful for your friendship and support."
It's a subtle change, but I can see how it would make a big difference.
Mm.
Okay, so we've got body language, active listening, I statements. What else can we add to our arsenal of communication skills?
Let's add compromise.
Compromise. Doesn't that sound a bit passive? Like we're giving in.
Not at all. It's about finding solutions that work for everyone, even if it means not getting everything you want. It's essential in healthy relationships. What do you think about compromise?
It's like finding that middle ground where everyone feels heard and respected.
Yeah.
But it takes flexibility and a willingness to give and take a little. Sounds challenging, but also really rewarding if you can pull it off.
It is. And that's where good communication comes in. You need to clearly articulate your needs, actively listen to theirs, and be willing to explore different options. It's a dance between assertiveness and empathy.
I'm starting to see that assertiveness isn't just about speaking up, it's about understanding and respecting other people's perspectives too.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between honoring your own needs and considering the needs of others.
Wow, we've really covered it all from the fundamentals of assertive communication to real-life scenarios, cross-cultural considerations, and now all these amazing tools we can use. What a journey.
It has been a fantastic exploration. But before we wrap up, remember, assertive communication is a journey, not a destination. Keep practicing, celebrate your wins, and never stop learning. What are your final reflections about this deep dive?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that assertive communication is a skill that anyone can develop. It's not about changing who you are, it's about learning to express yourself more effectively and confidently. And that can make a world of difference in how we navigate our relationships and our lives.
Beautifully said. And remember, your voice matters. Use it with confidence, clarity, and respect, and you'll be amazed at the positive changes it can bring.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into assertive communication. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and feel empowered to use your voice to make a positive impact. Until next time, keep communicating with confidence.